Hey fans, welcome back to the Fanvestor Report, a weekly podcast covering the business of celebrity that fans want in on. I'm your host, Jezlan Moyet, a fellow fan and investor. Happy holiday weekend, by the way. I hope you're all going to be busy celebrating after watching this podcast, of course, and have a little Moyet Rosé while you're at it. And there is so much to raise a glass to, including America's booming economic recovery. Cue the fireworks and the revenge spending. The U.S. economy is roaring back to life, special thanks to a $5.3 trillion worth of stimmies. Fans can almost invest like they're celebrities, or they can now invest in those celebrity businesses and brand deals on Fanvestor. And crypto fans may now have to shop for a new wallet. The cryptocurrency exchange Binance has been banned from operating in the UK by the country's markets regulator, and the latest sign of a growing crackdown on the crypto market around the world. Binance actually withdrew applications to register with the FCA due to not meeting anti-money laundering requirements. Meanwhile, the Binance CEO has warned fans via Twitter, if you follow a rich, crazy, randomly swinging person's tweets to trade, you'll end up not rich. Big surprise. But now there's over 100 million crypto traders worldwide, and they're certainly going to try. And if these crypto maniacs aren't drafting their thesis off a tweet or two, they're doing their due diligence on Reddit. The co-founder of Reddit, Alexis Ohanian, has invested heavily in upcoming startup gambling app Wager. Ohanian is running a $4 million seed funding round for the app he believes will change the game. Wager is a social gambling app which lets you quick bet with your friends without requiring any knowledge about gambling. Yikes. Sounds like a playground for the rise of Reddit retail traders, and who knows, I'd wager there might even be a stock trading option on the platform. So who wants to bet on it? We polled the fans on the Fanvestor account and asked if you believe the Reddit co-founder's investment was a good deal or a bad deal. And 5-1, it was a solid wager. The number one leading digital media company known for their sports and celebrity analysis on the daily is Barstool Sports. Barstool was founded in 2013 by Dave Portnoy, who we've mentioned on this podcast before. Barstool has a solid bench of players, including the Penn State national gaming team, who purchased $163 million of their shares for only 36%. Home run. That made the valuation of Barstool $450 million. But they're not the only game in town. Sports Illustrated and Venmo have partnered to make a Live Events Possible Again app. SI Tix, the newest live event ticket platform, just launched, and you now have the ability to pay with Venmo. And this is exactly what they needed to scale. Paying for tickets through their old method had a hefty transaction fee, and now they're able to cut the costs and save the fans some money. More money equals more merch. And sports fans are now toasting with Digits, a 5-year-old bourbon whiskey, the latest venture of Scottie Pippen. A retired professional basketball player, Scottie Pippen played 17 seasons, winning 6 NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls. Pippen, who has a net worth of $20 million, is smooth on and off the court. He tapped the award-winning Savage & Cook distillery, owned by Napa Valley winemaker David Finney, to create and produce an equally smooth 5-year-old bourbon whiskey. And this week, Chicago fans will be the first to taste and experience. On June 24th, 2021, Chicagoans' first tasters experienced Digits with an MSRP of $70 for 750 milliliter bottle. Pip said, "Chicago has meant so much to me, and the experience, and equally as important, to the people that inspired me and cheered me on. I wanted to toast with them first and foremost." Well, cheers to Digits and Chicago. And fans in Washington and New York have a proper place to gather now that the restrictions are lifting. So, back in 2010, Rob Zahn and Will Strasser founded NIEUW Group, specializing in high-end restaurants, bars, and nightlife. Manhattan Proper, Proper West, and brought on Proper 21 to DC in early October 2016. It was created by executive chef Steve Forbes, who has a net worth of $430 million. He is the chief executive officer of the publishing and media company known as Forbes Media LLC. Think Tom Ford meets Thomas Edison. It's been the best description of the modern aesthetic and New York style of all of these Manhattan locations. So what is the future of media and entertainment? The entertainment industry has transformed over the past year. And what's next? Well, hot off the press, two former Hollywood rivals, Entertainment Tonight's Kevin Frazier and Access Hollywood's Tony Potts, have teamed up. Their new joint venture was announced just this week with a strategy to accelerate KFP's cutting-edge and red-hot POC-themed IP and expand its reach into the content artist's massive digital out-of-home content distribution network. Co-founder of the Content Artist Global Content Incubation and Acceleration Media Company, Tony Potts, has had an Emmy Award-winning career, including 12 years as a host, writer, and producer on NBC's hit show, Access Hollywood. With a background rooted in content, communication, and news economy, he is successfully delivering content to millions on local, national, and international stages. His career in front of the camera as a leading talent has produced over 5,000 shows, as well as executive behind the camera, bridging Hollywood, tech, sports, and esports, and in the boardroom. He provides unique insight in global content studio creation, innovative media, brand building, and talent management. Kevin Frazier is a renowned TV host, journalist, sportscaster, host of NBC's Entertainment Tonight since 2004. He is the co-host and managing editor of ET's sister show, The Insider, as well, and has also hosted for ESPN SportsCenter, the FX Sports Show, the NFL Sidelines, pregame shows for the NFL on Fox, NHL, and College Football Saturdays. KFP focuses on crafting engaging entertainment and lifestyle content, multimedia experience for advertisers and audiences alike. Meanwhile, KFP has also been creating outstanding original POC-themed IP for 10 plus years. We're going to hear the latest on the future of entertainment and this venture with Tony Potts in studio when we come back. Stay here. Hey fans, welcome back to the Fanvestor Report. I couldn't be more excited to be with Tony Potts today. He is an Emmy Award winner. He's had 12 years in Hollywood, Access Hollywood, but not only is he a master in front of the camera, he is a master beyond, and he's got an incredible new venture with Kevin Frazier. We talked about this early in the show. Tony, thanks so much for being with us, and congratulations.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be here. Great to see your smiling face again. I know we haven't seen each other since the pandemic. It's been like, 16, 17 months, so... Yeah, you're healthy, I'm healthy, we made it through.
We made it through. I think the last time we connected actually was for the French Riviera Film Festival that we got to co-host. It was amazing to see you and your gorgeous wife there, but it's so cool to be able to reconnect. So much has happened.
Yeah, and I think I also drank a little bit that day. I may have had a little bit of champagne. I don't drink often, so it's like a glass and a half of champagne, and I'm like, woohoo!
Well, exactly. It was also sponsored by a great rosé, so there was plenty of that flowing. We roséed all day and honored some incredible short films. We'll be doing that again. Special shout out to the French Riviera Film Festival happening later this July. But first and foremost, again, hot off the press, you and Kevin Frazier. So I know that this has been a long time coming. I read an interview you did, that you'd be talking about maybe someday you do this job together or a collaboration. So what are you doing and why now?
Well, you're right. It's been a while, and we've been in these really nice jacuzzis, as I say, like Access Hollywood and ET. Great jacuzzis, lots of food, everything's flowing, it's great, and whatever. We always thought maybe there's that other jacuzzi over there that's kind of dark and maybe cold, not have all the things, but maybe we should go individually and try to get together. And we talked about it over the years. We've been on a lot of various adventures around the world, our respective shows. And in fact, Kevin and I were talking the other day that one of the times we really got to know each other really well is we used to always fly to Miami, and he and I would request the same flight on the same plane, a 777, because in first class you can sit up and have a desk, and we ended up sitting across from each other, so our desks faced each other, and we just chatted for like 5 hours. And I was like, this dude is awesome. He's got great ideas. He's got ideas in ways that I don't, and I think he felt the same. So we always had it in the back of our head. We've talked a couple of times, but now is the time, because with my producing partner, we launched a company called The Content Artist, and what we do is we incubate and accelerate content ideas. We're basically the hub for whether it's a small snackable piece of video that we can play, in the back of Ubers and brand against that, or in airports or what have you, or also full-on shows that we'll pitch to Netflix and what have you. And then we have movies that come through and tech deals. But with Kevin has created, two great, IPs, intellectual property. One's called Travel Coterie, Coterie, and it's people of color travel that he's been able to develop over the years. All these destinations around the world have all this Black history that's just fascinating, and he's done such a great job with that. And then he also has Hip Hollywood, which he's had for a number of years as well. So we looked at those two IPs and said, listen, Kevin, I think we can do things with our distribution network. We have two distribution networks that are Nielsen rated at about 32 million in one direction and then about 2.5 million in another, with great ROI for brands. We thought, listen, let's take this great IP you have. Let's talk about ways we can create a 22.5 minute show, right? Or 30 minutes, but also use Slice and Dice to get that out there as well. So we had some conversations over the last 5 or 6 months. It became evident that we have actually 3 more things we haven't announced that are going to come out. So we're like, listen, we got 5 coming out of the gate here. This is great. And here's the nice thing, and Jezlan, you'll understand this because you've been in Hollywood a while. If you've been in Hollywood a while and you're successful, even remotely successful, I've been here 24 years since I came from New York City. Kevin's been here about the same. It's hard to find really good people, but the ones who survive, there's no BS, right? So Kevin and I know this. We come into this knowing, like, look, there's no BS. We're super honest with each other. By the way, we've seen about everything that can happen in the business. So we have that kind of kinship. And then one linchpin to all of this is my producing partner, Kanan Rubin, who's phenomenal. He was at ET for a long time. He actually produced Kevin for a while, ran some of Kevin's business back in the 13s or 14s. And then Kanan and I, for about 12 years, have been working on various projects as well. And then we, about 4 or 5 years ago, we spun out and built a studio in Amsterdam, a digital content studio.
Why Amsterdam?
There was a company called Modern Times Group. Modern Times Group owns a lot of pipelines for distribution throughout Europe. One thing they did own that we didn't know at the time, they owned a company called Turtle Entertainment. You're like, Turtle Entertainment? What is it, Ninja Turtles? No, they own ESL, one of the biggest esports businesses in the world. But this is back in 2014-15. So they had bought I think the 4th or 5th largest multi-channel network in the world. They were pushing out 200 videos a week. They knew what they bought, but they didn't know exactly what to do with it. It was okay as it was. And so Kanan actually led the way for the most part and then brought me in. But we realized that all these stories they were pumping out were actually IP. There was a story like, say, in Mongolia, like that's a documentary. And then Jezlan, you'll love this. There was a guy we came across, long hair, black leather coat, blowtorch in one hand, sword in the other, and he had women in Madrid waiting 2 months for him to burn and cut their hair. Amazing. And so we're like, yo, this guy's a reality show. So we created a show called Sword Salon. So long story short,
Sword Salon?
We created 19 formats in about 7 weeks, shot 19 sizzles, sent them at MIPS. We had to as a timeline. And through that forced Kevin and I, in a really pressurized situation, we realized that, wow, we work pretty well together, and his skill set is much better than mine in some ways, that I probably shouldn't be doing those things, and vice versa. So we did that, and then I went off and did another thing in Budapest. He went to London, did VR, and we kept helping these companies, and we thought, well, let's build our own company, because we have enough knowledge now. We've got great friends in the business who are very talented, so how can we help them? Because one of the things we do is we're quick. Like, we can turn an idea into something like we did at Access and ET by 1 o'clock in the afternoon for millions of people, right? So take that and be able to create content this way, and it seems to work in the marketplace.
You know, that's one of the things I respect most about you, Tony, is that you really have embraced the idea of entrepreneurship, right? You are not just talent. You are not just a producer. You are an entrepreneur, and a very successful one at that. But that can be hard to do for many Hollywood personalities, right? The life beyond the art is embracing entrepreneurship. But celebrities are doing that now more than they ever have. You know, what was that like for you? Who was your mentor in business? I mean, what advice can you give?
Well, it's tricky. You're absolutely right, because when you're the face of a brand for a long time, or I've been in front of the camera since I was 20, right? But I've always, as you can tell, my brain goes 1,000 miles an hour, so I get bored easily. And so I started doing real estate, buying and selling real estate. When I started at Access, I'm a writer. So, I'm my 2 words that describe me that will give people an idea. I'm just insatiably curious. I love humans, and I think humans have great stories. I mean, one of the reasons I think my wife fell in love with me was we were in the Bahamas, and there was a couple. It was a jerk chicken shack in the Bahamas, and it was sunset, and it was this old couple like in their late 70s, and you could see they were backlit, and they were holding hands, red striped beer, and they were eating chicken. And I said to Shelley, not my wife at the time, obviously, I said, I have to go talk to them. This is just too. So I went and I said, hi, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're having a great moment, but I'm curious, like, how do you do this? Who are you? You're still here. You're holding hands, and they just gave me this whole. And so I've been insatiably curious. And what helped me a lot was moving out of Access and moving kind of behind the camera. One was I came up that way. I was a writer, shooter, producer. So that was that. Secondly, my wife is actually a true entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur in a way of I can put disparate ideas and things together and I can build. She can come out of like nowhere and build beauty brands, and she's been doing that since she was 15, 16, importing, exporting golf and surfwear. I mean, at 16 I was like, can I pass my driver's test, right?
She's such a boss. I mean, she really is the face of her brand. Ready, set, jet. I mean, that just describes who she is in a nutshell.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, travel and beauty. So there you go. And then also, I had bought a foreclosure in Playa Vista, which that was before it became what people now know as Silicon Beach. So not only to have a great wife who's an entrepreneur, it's kind of showing me the ropes of what she does and how freaking hard it is, but also I'm bumping into entrepreneurs, early stage people in the weeds back in the day. So I started taking the skill set that I learned at Access to showcase opportunity to grab attention on a daily basis within 5 seconds or 8 seconds of the tease. And what am I teasing? Brands. I'm teasing U2, maybe an interview I did with Bono, or the tentpole movie brand. So what I thought was a very narrow skill set, being able to grab the attention of millions in synthesizing a brand down to 8 seconds and keep them through that commercial break to come back to watch it, actually worked in other verticals, whether it was startups, in the drone space, in whatever it happens to be. So that was a big learning curve for me. But being always curious, I was able to look at my wife and then meet other people and get in the west side of LA at night, going to these beer and pizza meetups with 5 startups that didn't have any money, but learning from them and soaking that in and just coming to fruition and saying, look, I think there's this chasm between old school Hollywood, because I was still in that at the time, right, the studios, and then at night I'm spending time with these people who are going to invent Dollar Shave Club, and they're going to invent Snapchat and all this stuff, and they're like, what's wrong with you people in the studios? And so I saw this divide that if they could actually talk to each other. So we created a small venture capital fund called Sierra Maya 360, which would bridging Hollywood, technology, sports, and esports. So at the same time I'm getting out of Access and I'm trying to figure out this other thing, but I saw this ability for people to come together, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, absolutely. I can completely relate to that. Although I would consider myself a little bit new school, right? Coming from, my world as hosting the first digital live streaming talk show, that there is just this movement happening with entrepreneurship, with venture capital, with startups, especially here in LA. And finally, they're bridging the gap. And that's much thanks to you, Tony. I mean, you really pioneered that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't always know where I'm going, but I know when I feel it, right? I feel it in here. I feel what's happening. And then I ask people. I ask a lot of questions, and we're reporters, so we ask a lot of questions. And if you ask the right ones, and if you listen, one of the things that drove the producers at Access Hollywood nuts is that I would go into interviews without any notes. And producers, on those shows, it's like you got 2 pages of questions they want you to ask, and but I was more of like, let's start off. Sure, we'll start off with a couple of things, but let's get the mood. Let's see if there's a moment. Let's see if they say something, offhanded or whatever that I can take and make a moment, because we're all doing the same interviews, right, Jezlan? So we have to make a moment out of those and make it different. It's like at Access, ET was always number 1, right? And we were number 2 in the ratings. But our shows, like our day after the Oscars, our day after the Golden Globes, we always beat them because we did different stuff. Like I remember one year it was going to be chilly at the Golden Globes, so we somehow put a cappuccino machine and maker with a dude on the red carpet, and so you have Nathan Lane talking to Ludacris doing cappuccino. Like, how does that ever happen?
Well, and that's exactly what every celebrity wants on that moment, on that red carpet, just the extra dose of caffeine and honest conversation, right? So one of our fans that's watching right now has a question for you, speaking of that moment, Tony. So they want to know, what was that moment for you? What was the most memorable interview or conversation you had in your years at Access?
Oh, geez. There's
It'd be
so
hard
many.
to pick one.
I mean, the first time I met Julia Roberts was for Notting Hill. So I'm at Access not very long, and they send me out the door like, yo, you're going to London, interview, Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant. And so I get over there, and, I don't have notes, which is driving people crazy. And she was the first $20 million woman. So they were telling me, you got to get that question about being a $20 million woman. And I'm like, I don't ask people about money, and especially women. And I'm just meeting her. So, but with me, what people know is I read literally everything. I read way too much. So I'll know everything about her beyond belief. So she comes in the room, and she's like, I'm actually a little nervous. I've met a lot of people, but I was actually a little nervous in this one. Yeah. And she's like, who are you? Because you're new. And I'm like, okay, this is starting well. But anyway, we're going along. And then, I just like to roll the interviews. And so she's sitting there, and we're talking for 5 minutes. And she goes, when are we going to start? And I'm like, well, we've already started. And she's like, well, where are your notes? And I'm like, well, they're up here. And she's like, we'll F and see about that, won't we? And I was like, oh my goodness. But we get to the end, and what was nice about it was, at the end I said, because I'm just honest in my interviews, and I think that's helped my longevity. I never sandbag anybody or whatever, but if I'm going to ask you a tough question, I'm going to ask you a tough question. The question about the money is not a tough question, but I said to her, listen, they want me to ask about the money. I'm not going to ask about the money. And she goes, and I said, well, you and I have something in common. And she's like, what could that possibly be? I said, look, we're both from small towns. And I said, I don't have as much money as you. I said, but when I got my first huge contract, I said, the first year was more than my dad made in his best 5 years. So it was kind of like embarrassing, but I wanted to show it to him so he could look at it and look over stuff. He's not a lawyer, but I go, so it's that kind of weirdness, right? And he's like, is it funny money? And so she gave me she said, look, I'll give you the answer then, because you were so nice about it. So that was kind of a nice thing. But I had I had giggling fits with people. I had a great interview with Sir Anthony Hopkins, who gave the great line to me. I was told he was very particular in I found him
for a second.
Really the opposite. Just very charming and fantastic. And I said to him, he said that he loves being a dual citizen. He loves just sitting on his porch overlooking the ocean in, I think, Santa Monica. And I said to him, well, do you ever get a little lonely? Lots of people around you? Oh. And he looks at me and he goes, young man, he goes, I am more than comfortable in my own company. I was like, dude, that is just that was just a great one. So I've had those.
That is so powerful. Tony, real quick, I don't want to interrupt you or that incredible story, but in true Hollywood form, we've got a camera glitch on our end. So it's a good thing that we're still telling that story live on Instagram and connecting. We'll continue conversation now. They reset the cameras, and here we are now. We're back.
I see you now.
We're back. This is not an True Hollywood story, but it could be. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. And, so many celebrities have continued to appreciate how candid you are and what a great listener you are. Authenticity really matters. And it's interesting, though, because, you mentioned you weren't going to ask Julia about the money, but now more than ever, fans are curious about the money. Celebrities are talking about their money and their investments, right? Cue Fanvestor and the opportunity for fans to actually invest in celebrity-driven businesses. So how have you seen that kind of evolution, and what do you think is going to happen with that?
Well, that's a really good point, Jezlan, and I think Fanvestor's, its launch is right on the money, because the reason why I also helped co-found Sierra Maya 360, the VC, is because I did see athletes, they want to be actors want to be rock stars want to be athletes, and some of them were looking outside of their traditional vertical to make investments, to look at stuff. So I started seeing that early on with Ashton Kutcher. Obviously is famous for it now, but back then it was interesting to see all of that, and I did see how that was gently changing, and the tide was changing, and actors and musicians and athletes were starting to take control of their own destiny in a way. And when they did that, they're opening themselves up to fans more and more, both with social media, from 2008 becoming what it is now, but also through 13, 14, 15, and 16 when it really started to take hold. And I think it's in a great spot now where, in one sense, they're overexposed and some of the stuff is too much sharing. But also, I think for me back in the day, when I was a kid, if I could have texted Magic Johnson, I mean, are you kidding? Or Dr. J, or I don't know, whoever was popular back then as an actor, it would have been incredible. And fans can do that now. And now also they can be a part of a movement or a product or whatever's happening with that celebrity. And I think that's a great thing. And I have no idea where it's going to go, but it seems like Fanvestor is uniquely positioned to be there when it does and help accelerate it.
It really is interesting, though, because before, Tony, you really held the power, right? The power of that story, of the celebrity, of that entertainment news. And now the power...
Because he's may throw another chair through a bus window. I think he's maybe learned his lesson. Scotty will have controversial remarks like he just had recently about Jordan and what have you. So there's a good example, actually, Jezlan, I'm glad you brought that up, is that you have to look, right? What's the impact on either bourbon, right? If Connor goes off the rail, I always do worst case scenario. If Connor goes off the rails, does the brand survive? Is the brand positioned in a way that, sure, he's kind of buffeted and known for it, but he's not it, right? And the same thing with Scotty. You look at, there's a guy who played behind, when he got injured, this is how Tom Brady got his gig, named Drew Bledsoe, former number 1 pick in the NFL. But he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he is, but he's got a great winery, legit wine, really, really good, won awards, and he's not going to go off the rails. I would invest in his winery if it was available, because you have to look at the long play, right? You have to look at the long play, and will they go off the rails at any certain point?
The long play is a very interesting point, because especially with the meme coins and Reddit and GameStop, I mean, the market is so volatile right now. Does that worry you in a time where you're launching all this new content, you're launching this business? How is that affecting you? Really, the power of Hollywood and the fans' ability to invest.
It doesn't affect me at all, and I'll tell you why. Because 2 reasons. One, since when we were able to write little stick figures on cave walls way back in the day, a good story is a good story is a good story. So if we continue to put together great stories, we'll be fine. Distribution is different. The mechanisms and the algorithms, that's all different, but that's fine. That can be done by people smarter than me. Secondly, I only did a couple of stocks in the stock market, and here's why. I put most of my focus in real estate, because in the stock market, I would have to rely on 500 employees and a whole bunch of executives doing the right thing and not having and I'll be blunt, the executive one day going out, the CEO, and banging 40 strippers and it being somewhere, and then the whole, we lose half the value of the company, right? I mean, being extreme, but I have no control of that. If I buy a house, or I buy a rental property, which I did. My first one was in Burbank, California. I can see, feel, touch it, and I can control it. Now, the overall market, no, I can't control that to a certain extent. But long-term history, you look, the real estate market's always gone like this. If you look at 50 years, it's like this. So that, for me, the other stuff I can't control, I don't get involved with. But I know, as far as our business, that people like you and I and my daughter, who's 16, who's, can do TikTok in 2 seconds, it takes me 20 minutes, they still love and are attracted to good stories on TikTok. If it's just crap, it's crap. And they won't watch it. And by the way, that generation has a BS meter like you would not believe. They're so hip to stuff. She's 16, 17. So it's the same thing as back in the 50s when there was a ton of television started, now there's programming, and then there was crap, and then it kind of filtered its way, right? And the stuff that's good remains good. And radio never went away, which they thought was going to, because radio started getting better as well. So yeah, I kind of stay away from, but I love it. I love, back to your point about GameStop and stuff. It's kind of cool because hedge funds for a shit ton of years have had unfair advantage, right? Mainly unregulated. They can crush a company pretty easily. And now, and they've never really had an equal, but now individual investor power, Reddit is like, yo, screw you, we're going to do this. And then it's like, oh my gosh. So I like that disruptive nature of it. I love watching it, just put it that way. I'm a fan, and I'm in the stands rooting it on. So,
well, yeah, to quote a good friend of mine, Tony Potts, pardon the disruption, but there has been a massive disruption here in the market, and it's by the fans. I think you make such an interesting point too, that so much has happened with the entertainment industry, especially this past year. It really hit fast forward on the streaming wars and distribution in tech in general, but what remains true is the magic and power of a story, and the power of the fan now more than ever can get in on that. So thank you, Tony, for your time. Please remind everyone where they can follow you, and of course, check out all of your new content.
TheContentArtist.com, obviously, and then me is just Tony Potts 1, which is my Twitter. Official Tony Potts is Instagram, and just Google me, you'll find me. I'm available somewhere. Luckily, I don't have a booking photo yet, so I've escaped that so far.
Well, thank you again, Tony. We really appreciate it. I'm going to wrap this out here on the interview, and of course, I'm going to continue the conversation live on Instagram with some of your fans. Thank you again for your time, Tony. We appreciate you here at Fanvestor. Keep it here. We'll be right back.
Congrats on the new show.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Stay well.
See you.
Stay here. Fans, we have some more game-changing collabs you might want to get in on, including Solstice Shimmer Oil Sunscreen SPF 30. Stella Artois, with an approximate net worth of $994 million, has launched its own sunscreen with an estimated price tag of $39. According to Lara Krug, the VP of Marketing, Stella Artois Solstice Shimmer Oil was actually designed to be used with Stella Artois beer. The founder and CEO said, everything we make revolves around the sun, so it made sense to partner with a sun-inspired beer like Stella Artois Solstice Lager to create our new Solstice Shimmer Oil Sunscreen SPF 30. All those S's. You can purchase the sunscreen at the Soleil Toujours website, launching this week. And if that wasn't hot enough, this week Ferrari unveiled a new supercar known as the Ferrari 296 GTB hybrid supercar that makes you go from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 2.9 seconds. Talk about taking the show on the road. And speaking of show, Ferrari's first luxury fashion collection was launched on the runway this week in Italy. Ferrari invested heavily into this luxury line. T-shirts are retailing for $250, and celebs like Lana Del Rey have been seen wearing the Ferrari racing jacket. Kylie Jenner was also spotted wearing a Ferrari hoodie and Puma Ferrari sneakers. So, why would a car company produce a fashion line? Well, according to brand diversification creative director, we want to attract young people and women. Our targets are not just those who buy a Ferrari, but also those who have awareness of the brand and of its values. So we polled the fans at Fanvestor, and 2-1, they said they want in on it. Fans, if you want to get in on the next mega celebrity brand, it's time to invest with heart. Fanvestor is an innovative digital crowdfunding platform. Think Star Engine meets E, where fans can support their favorite celebrities, fashion icons, media, athletes, actors, etc., and invest with heart. Fans can participate through e-commerce auctions and with perks and one-of-a-kind experiences. Accredited and non-accredited fans can invest in equity crowdfunding projects. And right now, you can actually invest in Fanvestor, which will be introducing an NFT product line very soon. Fanvestor is home to the recent launch of Amari Stoudemire's latest venture, Masa, a new college and product designed for those with an active lifestyle. Masa translates to journey in Hebrew, and the team at Fanvestor is so excited to be on this journey together. Amari is a 6-time NBA All-Star, Olympic bronze medalist, and most recently, the 2020 MVP in the Israeli Championships. He is also an entrepreneur with an organic farm, a clothing line, and a series of children's books. Talk about active lifestyle. And in his spare time, I don't know how he has any, he is a winemaker and a player development coach at the Brooklyn Nets. A portion of the proceeds from Masa sales go to the Amari Stoudemire Foundation that provides at-risk youth with educational opportunities and financial literacy. So, fans are going to want to get in on these perks and experiences. If you purchase Masa, you can also get a limited edition Stoudemire hoodie. Go one-on-one game of NBA 2K with Amari, a virtual round of boxing with Amari at Rebel Gym, have dinner with Amari in New York prepared by his personal chef, and the best perk, a trip to Israel with Amari, and he'll take you through a tour of the holy sites. And now also available on Fanvestor, you can get #Hair Dope, created by Super Dope Q. This hair color brand includes hair brightener, pre-shampoo, hair juice, and hair sauce, perfect for those weekends in Vegas. Hair color is considered a fashion accessory, part of an outfit, personal style, so fans, it's time to get creative. Hair Dope is inclusive to both wigs and natural hair, with nourishing ingredients like olive oil, shea butter, argan oil, and keratin. The formulas are water-based, free of salt, parabens, and ammonia. And even more, it's cruelty-free and it's vegan. And now that their hair is dope, fans can get in on perks and experiences. A purchase of the full Hair Dope line comes with a limited edition Super Dope Q hoodie. You can also shop Q's closet or invest in a personal styling session on Zoom, or even get a personal style session and makeover by Q in Atlanta. And the best perk? A trip to Black Ink Studios in Atlanta, where you and your boo can get matching tattoos. Fans, thanks so much for streaming this episode of the Fanvestor Report. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Click that button. And special thanks to our guest, Tony Potts, this week. We'll see you next time.
Start it up.